So first off, let's just start off with who the heck am I? I see some new faces. So let me just kind of introduce myself. My name is Casey Storley. A lot of people call me Coach Casey. I've been in the fitness industry for about 7+ years now. Some of my credentials are I'm an NCI level 1 nutrition coach. I'm an NCI mindset specialist. I'm also a precision nutrition level 1 nutrition coach. I'm a CrossFit level 2 coach as well. Been a coach for about 6 years. I'm also a USAW level 1 coach. I'm a national level weightlifter. And then I'm an assistant coach and nutrition coach for a barbell club in Brooklyn, New York called Brooklyn Training Hall. That's why I do travel up there quite often. Okay. Now, I wasn't always like this my whole life. Okay. A little bit of a background story of my transition into the health and fitness and a little bit of my journey. Okay. When I first started my journey, I was overweight for my size. I was almost 200 pounds. And mind you, these pictures right here that I portray aren't even the heaviest I was. I tore up or deleted all the photos I was when I was at my heaviest. But I was also extremely unhealthy in the sense of my relationship with food and myself. I struggle with eating disorders. Majority of my life, starting in high school, I was bulimic. I struggled on and off of that until I'm now going on 4 years with no ED episodes. So I'm pretty proud of that. I also had a very poor relationship with alcohol. I've worked with recovering alcoholics before, and one of my clients mentioned that I was kind of like a baby alcoholic. I wasn't necessarily a true alcoholic, but I was on my way for sure. I was in a toxic relationship. I was depressed. I struggled with anxiety. I also have ADHD. And so I could not think, I could not function. I was not doing well in college simply because I just was in such an unhealthy state, mentally, physically, spiritually. It was just a horrible situation. And I tell this story often. I actually just opened up about this on a post recently, but I'll tell it on here. One of my lowest points was I was in a toxic relationship, and I was pretty depressed, and I was super anxious all the time. And I coped with eating and I coped with drinking. And one night I went to a party, and I told everybody that I was okay. I could drive. It's fine. Totally wasn't. I woke up the next morning, about an hour and a half out of town. Didn't know where I was. And I had 1% on battery on my phone. I was also stuck in a ditch in the middle of the country with no street signs or anything like that. Had no idea where I was. Luckily, a gentleman in a tractor was driving by and pulled me out, allowed me to use his phone. I called my father. And so helped me, like my father came and picked me up. The kicker that I didn't share in my post, for those of you that did read it before, is that exact day was when I was meeting a college coach. I played softball growing up. Was I the healthiest player? No, but I was a decent player enough to get a scholarship. So I was meeting a new college coach. I was transferring to a new school, and I met with her that day. I was still drunk, feeling like I was going to throw up. And my dad's like, you better tough this through because you can ruin your future if you don't. And so I remember like trying not to talk during this whole thing. And I actually told my coach later on, a few years later, letting her know what was going on. She's like, that's why you acted so weird. And I was like, yep, that's why. So that was kind of my lowest turning point. That was when my father was like, hey, you need to turn your life around. Like, you're scaring the living crap out of everybody. I'm lucky enough that I have very stubborn family, and they never gave up on me, and they kept pushing me no matter how much I fought back to help me make better changes with my life and take control of my life and really do take care of myself. So from there, I started surrounding myself with people that really cared about me. I fell in love with what I was doing. I love coaching. I love fitness. I love nutrition. And I will definitely say this, it saved my life. The path that I was on was not good. There are still things that I don't feel comfortable talking about, just because I'm still sorting through things. But I know that where I was before and where I'm at now, it's a whole nother person. It's almost like thinking about a dream or thinking about a story that I once heard about this girl that struggled with things. It doesn't even seem real. That's how much change has happened, both physically and mentally. And I'm very proud of that. But it wasn't easy. It was very hard. I went through a lot of trial and error. You can see that these two pictures were at my heaviest, but this picture right here in the middle was also my worst as well. One of my worst. This was when I was a competitive athlete. And this wasn't out of self-hate. This wasn't out of depression. I was actually had a bunch of friends and family around me. But what happened is that I got blinded by ambition. If I weighed less, if I looked better, I would therefore be a better nutrition coach because people would want to be like me. Okay. If I weighed less in a different weight class, I would be more competitive. Therefore, I would have more value. And because I underate, valued being smaller, taking up less space, old habits came back. My anxiety and my depression came back. My eating disorder came back. I was not fun to be around. I think my go-to frame of saying hello to somebody was actually flipping them off because I was just always super mad because I was chronically under eating. I couldn't cope with stress. I was miserable. I was frustrated. Around that time is when we were getting ready to get married. Ladies and gentlemen, I will definitely say this. I'm surprised that my husband married me because at that point, because I was just so depleted in nutrients and food and recovery that I was just not a good person, right? From this experience, I know for a fact, and you can ask any one of my other clients that has started in a position like this where they're under eating, trying to be smaller, take up less space, eat less, move more. The difference between then and learning how to properly nourish your body and give it the loving it needs, it not only does transform you physically, but it transforms you emotionally and mentally. Your food is your fuel. It is your medicine. And your body is a vehicle. Whether you want to be the best mother or father, whether you want to be the best professional, the best athlete, improve your mental health, increase your quality of life, your food and your movement can do that for you, right? You can tell that I'm very passionate about this, okay? And this last picture is me taking a deep dive into taking care of myself. And that meant eating more food. Because I was at such a chronic state of depletion, my body did not respond very well. It was very angry with me. I was an extreme case. So I actually gained 30 pounds. I had digestive issues that I had to work through. I had hormonal issues that I had to work through. I was super inflamed. I had to learn how to be okay with being uncomfortable because that's what my body needed in order to get me to a better state, not only in health, not only aesthetically, not only performance, but mentally, I needed that, right? Which leads me to where I'm at today, all right? I'm still working through things. I'm a little thicker than I'm used to, but that's okay. I still love my body, right? It's not a big deal. I'm stronger than I've ever been. I'm also accomplishing things that I never thought I would in my whole life. I am a business owner and I would never, if you asked that girl back here, right here, if she ever thought she would be a nutrition coach, if she ever thought she would be an entrepreneur, if she ever thought that she would be traveling around the United States, helping people gain their, do whatever they want through nutrition and fitness, reaching their goals, she would have laughed in your face, right? The amount of growth that has happened just by investing in myself through nutrition and fitness. This is why I love what I do. because I know for a fact it can change lives. For those of you that just logged in, can you please put yourself on mute so that way we don't have some background noise? All right. Which this whole process led me to my methodology of coaching. All right. I run Thriving On, but we do have a methodology. Okay. And it's called the Surviving to Thriving method. Okay. So within Thriving On, we have 4 phases. The first phase is creating a foundation. When I have somebody signing up, we have to create a good foundation. No skipping corners, no nothing. We've got to create very basic principles. And some of the common ones are like, hey, are you eating enough calories every single day? Hey, are you eating enough protein? Are you drinking enough water? Are you sleeping? How's your coping stress mechanisms, right? Just creating a really good foundation, because what happens with other programs is when you start to go build up, let's say you're going to a fat loss phase or performance phase, but you don't have a really good foundation to build off of, guess what's going to happen? Things are going to crumble, or you're going to have a very low ceiling of potential. When my clients sign up with me, it's understood this is for life. No quick fixes, no cutting corners. If you're signing up with Thriving On, you're committing to yourself to learn what it means to be able to be healthy, happy, reach the goals that you want, and get it for life. Because nothing is worse than working your ass off to get results only to go back to where you were before, or even worse. And that's the dieting culture. Because if they actually taught you how to make change and keep it, they wouldn't make any money. Luckily, honestly, I could give 2 craps about money. I mean, yeah, I do want to keep the lights on and put food on my plate, but ultimately I'm here to make change in people's lives. That's what I love to do. So yeah, I want to be the last nutrition coach for my clients. So that means building a really good foundation. Okay. And then phase number 2 is going into whatever progressive dieting phase that they want to go into, whether it's a fat loss phase, performance phase, everything like that. But because they created a really good foundation, that push phase seems 10 times easier than they've ever done before. And it's going to be far more effective, far more sustainable, far more enjoyable, because they put in the work first. All right. Phase number 3 is going to be going back to homeostasis, right? Or a recovery phase. So you just went through a push phase, maybe building to a meet, or you lost a lot of weight. That's kind of tough on the body. We've got to make sure that it recovers. You got to make sure that it's getting enough food every single day. You got to make sure that you're sleeping well and you're thinking right, and you're getting yourself back to the point where you can crush a lot of calories and build muscle and feel great and feel like a superhero every single day. And then last phase is phase number 4 is a lifestyle integration. How do we take the principles that you just learned and fit it into your lifestyle? And by the way, this whole theme of today is fitting in foods that we enjoy. Okay, so that's what I help my clients with. That's the Surviving to Thriving method. Because like I said before, I want to be the last damn coach that my clients ever have. All right. So going into the top 3 secrets to enjoying the foods that you love and still seeing the results that you're looking for. Secret number 1 is to have a nutrition plan that allows you to fit the foods that you love into your lifestyle and in the program. All right. And guys, get into the chat box. How many of you guys have done a diet in which restricted all the food? No carbs, no sugar, certain meal plan that you only can eat these certain amount of foods? How many of you guys? Put it in the chat box. Give me a yes or a no. Yep. Yep. Yeah, a lot of yeses coming in. Okay. Now, how many of you have been able to get results and keep it off? Give me a yes or a no. Exactly. Katie, yep, yo-yo here for sure. I've done it too. I'm guilty of it. It's because restricting yourself from certain food groups, restricting yourself from foods that you love, does not work. It's not sustainable. Oh, Natalie, yes, because you're my coach. Well, yeah, that doesn't count. Oh, and yeah, Nicole, now that I'm with you, yes, okay, yes. Okay, but we're not doing crazy dieting. We're actually doing what works. Okay, so you need a nutrition program that allows you to have the foods that you love, because if you enjoy the foods that you're eating, guess what? You're far more likely to keep the results that you're looking for, creating a sustainable routine, right? And also we have to look into behavior. When somebody tells you you can't have something or you can't do something, guess what you want to do? You want to do it. It's just human behavior. So when somebody says that you can't go out to eat, you can't eat these cookies, you can't do this, can't do that, guess what's going to happen? It's going to feed into that restrict binge cycle that the dieting culture has put us in. We restrict, all of a sudden we binge on everything. How many of you guys done like a 30-day restrictive challenge or a diet or something like that, only to see it end? And you're like, oh, I can't wait until I eat 5 Big Macs and I'm going to eat all the cookies and all the ice cream. Again, that restrict binge cycle. Yep, Nicole. So what if we found a nutrition program that incorporated the foods in there? Would you think that you'd have a better relationship with food? Do you think you'd be able to show a little bit more moderation, enjoying things here and there, fitting it into your nutrition plan, but not putting yourself to the point where you're miserable and all you can think about is just shoving your food with a bunch of food that you know that's not going to make you feel good the next day? Right? So with that being said, within Thriving On, we use what's called flexible dieting. Okay, flexible dieting is essentially having some type of nutrition goal through tracking with your a tracking app. Okay, but there's 2 methods that I break that into. There's 2 different branches. A lot of people are familiar with macro counting. Macro counting is a protein goal, a fat goal, a carb goal. And within Thriving On, we like to add in a little bit of an 800-gram fruits and vegetables just to make sure that you're getting enough volume of food, enough nutrient dense foods, and you're getting enough fiber. Okay. The other method that we also use, a lot of my clients actually use this, is a flexible macro counting. So instead of having proteins, fats, and carbs, we're having a calorie range that we're working with. We've got a protein goal, and we also have 800 grams of fruits and vegetables. But we can fit foods in here. Understand that 80% of the time, it's going to be nutrient-dense foods, single ingredient foods, just because I need to nourish my body. But I want to fit a cookie in. Let's go. Just has to hit my calorie range, my protein goal. And if I hit 800 grams of fruits and vegetables, nailed it. Versus the past diets that you've tried where you have a meal plan or you're not allowed to touch anything. And you're like, oh, I just had 1 cookie and I failed. And you feel shame and guilt. You fall off the rails. You're unable to complete this. With tracking your food, flexible dieting, macro counting, it allows you to be able to focus on nutrient-dense foods, but also incorporate other foods that you really love in there. But there's other side benefits to tracking your food. Whenever I'm talking about somebody trying to learn how to create food freedom, eventually getting to the point where they don't really have to think about food, they just kind of do it. It's just kind of a habit. They're essentially learning to be a CEO of their own damn health. Well, what are CEOs? Very educated, very intelligent people. They're also very consistent with what they do. They're very dedicated. They also probably have some type of structure of how things are going, right? So when I'm trying to teach somebody how to be able to, let's say, whatever it's called, mindful eating or intuitive eating, well, your intuition is what got you where you're at right now. So we need to establish a new intuition, a new baseline to go off of. But if you've never taken time to educate yourself on like what food actually has in it, How does that relate to my fitness goals? How do I adjust this to maintain my health, reach my goals, make sure I show up as my best self every single day? If you've never taken the time to educate yourself on that, how do you know what to compare to? So establishing a new intuition, establishing a new baseline, the first step is you got to educate yourself. So macro counting, flexible macro counting is a great first step in that right direction, creating a new baseline. So that way you can eventually get to mindful eating or intuitive eating again, but you have a better intuition to work off of because you properly educated yourself, right? So if you aren't a macro counter or a flexible macro counter, I would definitely encourage you to dip into it, even if it's just for a week, because just creating awareness and just seeing where you're at can help point out a few things that you can start with and change. That's actually the first step in our last challenge. And people got amazing results because they're like, oh, I thought I ate healthy, but obviously while creating awareness, I'm not even close, right? Sometimes what you think isn't always reality. I literally just got off of the phone with a client not too long ago, like about 30 minutes ago. And she was like, during our challenge, I seriously thought that I was eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. I thought that I was eating healthy, but like creating awareness that first week, I actually started tracking things and it was just like mind blowing how I wasn't, right? So it's a great way to educate. It's a great way to create awareness. And it's also a fantastic way to create that food freedom of not fearing your food, being able to fit foods into your lifestyle, okay? So a great example is one of my clients here. He is an amazing gentleman, also very, very busy. He came to me kind of like he was traveling a lot. He wanted to go on lots of dates, but he definitely wanted to lean up, perform better in the gym, increase muscle mass while decreasing fat mass. Okay. But he was struggling to do that while fitting in, being able to go on dates, being able to travel and go on vacations. I was like, okay, great. We can definitely do that. What we're going to start doing is we're actually going to start flexible tracking, right? You're going to have a calorie range. You're going to have a protein goal. Try to get 800 grams of fruits and vegetables, but let the fat and carbs fall where they may. Have a little bit of more adaptability because he was a really busy person. Okay. He felt like macro counting wasn't necessarily sustainable for him for a long period of time. So we did flexible tracking instead, and then used macro counting at the last second, just because it's a little bit more accurate than flexible tracking. He was able to go on vacation. He was able to go out to eat. I had multiple conversations with him on the coaching calls of like, yeah, I ate a cookie today and it was great. Oh, by the way, I lost 2 pounds again. It's like, okay, great. Like we're doing fantastic. Okay. With us working together, he lost 14 pounds, lost over 3.5 inches off of his waist. He did gain a little bit inches on his arms and his lats and his legs, which is what was the goal. He wanted to gain muscle as well. And then he lost 4.5% of body fat off of his body, increased his muscle mass during a fat loss phase, which is not commonly heard of. So he did fantastic. So just proving that this can help. You can go on vacation. You can go out to eat. You just got to create a little bit of awareness, education, and learn how to incorporate this into your program. Okay. Secret number 2 is metabolic restoration and optimization. Okay. Now, how many of you are familiar with this terminology? Put a yes or a no in the chat box. Let me know if are you familiar with what this is? No. Nicole, I'm not surprised that you know that. Stacy, we've talked about this. Angie, no. Okay. A lot of no. Okay. So basically what it is the fact that majority of people have been told time and time again, in order for you to be healthy, in order for you to perform better in the gym, in order for you to look better naked, you must eat less and move more, eat less and move more, eat less and move more. But guess what happens? When you start eating less, your body starts recognizing that. Okay. It's actually an evolutionary phenomenon. Okay. Back in the caveman days, right? When somebody was in the middle of famine, wasn't eating, guess what your body's going to do? It was going to adapt. It's going to start burning less calories. It's going to start storing energy. It's going to start sending signals to your brain to stop moving so much. It's going to start sending signals to your body, like slow down digestion, slow down hormones. And also a common side effect of chronic undereating is losing muscle, because muscle is a very heavy tissue. And guys, it burns a lot of calories. There's a reason why very lean and muscular individuals can crush a lot of food. It's because muscles burn so much calories. But if you're chronically undereating, guess what your body's going to want to do? Get rid of it. It's also going to want to hold on to more fat, because that's a fuel source. It's like basically going into hibernation. That's why when people chronically undereat, even when they're losing weight, they don't necessarily look lean like they want to. They almost kind of look skinny fat. It's because how you do it matters. Your body will adapt. This is called metabolic adaptation. Okay. Or otherwise known as metabolic damage. That's why there are so many men and women that come to me and they're like, hey, I'm only eating 12 to 1400 calories, which by the way, that's a recommended intake of a toddler, and I'm not seeing results. Makes sense. How long have you been doing this? For a few years. Or like, hey, I can't remember the last time I haven't been dieting. Okay, cool. Your metabolism has slowed down. It is matched. It is damaged. You have basically lost the privilege to go into a fat loss phase, because the only way for you to start losing fat is for us to put you in a calorie deficit. But if you're starting at something like anywhere from 14 to 1600 calories, I need to bring you down all the way down to 1200 to 1000 calories. And guess what? If you're eating that little, of course, you're not going to be able to fit in the foods that you love. Of course, you're not going to be able to have a slice of pizza without feeling guilty. Of course, you're not going to have a glass of wine or two without feeling guilty or possibly putting yourself in a calorie surplus, because your metabolism is damaged. You have lost the privilege to go into a fat loss phase. All right. So when I have somebody that has been chronically undereating, and by the way, guys, sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes it's just stressed people undereat. It is a common response. I commonly work with a lot of stressed people out there: nurses, firefighters, police officers, athletes, personal trainers, entrepreneurs. The common thing is that they are so stressed out that they undereat because it messes with their hunger cues. That's why there's a common phrase that stressed people and intuitive eating don't necessarily go in hand. Okay. When I do have a client that has a goal of going into intuitive eating, we need to get their metabolism up. And then we also need to address their stress management skills to be able to rely on their hunger cues. Okay. So if you want to be able to fit the foods that you love, but you're only able to eat, let's say, anywhere from 14 to 1600 calories every single day, and you're maintaining weight, of course, you're not going to be able to eat them, because it's going to put you in a calorie surplus. Versus people that take time to restore their metabolism, get themselves up to a point where they're like, think of a metabolism as a fire. They get their metabolism like a big fire. And then you add a piece of pizza or a glass of wine. That doesn't put you over in calories. If you go on vacation for a week, you're not coming back gaining 10 pounds because your metabolism is super high. You've restored your metabolic health. Majority of Americans have a very poor metabolic health because of the diet culture. We have been constantly told to eat less and move more. We've never been properly educated on how to properly nourish our body. So the theme is stop dieting all the time. Learn how to crush maintenance. If you need to go through a reverse dieting phase, definitely. There's also a whole different metabolic restoration protocol I go with my clients to help them get to the point where they have a huge high metabolism. They're able to fit the foods that they love in there. Okay. And then when we go into a fat loss phase, we're not putting them in such a calorie deficit that it makes them miserable and they feel unhealthy because they're not getting enough nourishment in their body. It is essential. This is non-negotiable. If I have a client that has metabolic damage, they have to go through a metabolic restoration phase. Non-negotiable. Otherwise, morally, I can't coach them because it just causes more harm. And number one rule of a nutrition coach or a fitness coach, in my opinion, is thou shalt not harm anybody. Okay. So if you have never if you've never actually taken a look at what your metabolism is, or like what your maintenance calories is, which by the way, that's the amount of calories that you're eating equates the amount of calories that you're burning. Right. So like you can go to an app and it can give you an estimation of what your maintenance calories should be, and you're well below it. You need to go through a metabolic restoration. Hands down, non-negotiable. You do. And trust me, you're going to be thanking me later because it's going to make things 10 times easier. Right. I was talking to a client about this before. She was terrified about eating more. She was absolutely terrified of it. She was starting at 1,400 calories and gaining weight. I was like, we need to go through this. We need to give your body more nourishment. We need to boost your metabolism. And I explained this to her. I was like, if we go into a calorie deficit right now, you'd be only eating 1,000 calories every single day. Do you think you'd be able to fit that glass of wine in there? No, exactly. But what if we took time to restore your metabolism? What if we got you to where you needed to be, which by the way, that was about 21 to 2,200 calories for her. And that's pretty standard. Most men and women have 2,000 calories or more in a day to maintain health. Your girl is 5'5", works out 5 days a week, and I eat anywhere from 24 to 2,500 calories every single day. That's not unheard of. That's pretty standard. But because we've been conditioned that 1,200 calories and 1,800 calories is standard, of course, our metabolism has slowed down so much, but that doesn't mean that it's normal. Just because it's common doesn't mean that it's normal. Okay, so I was like, hey, if we can get you up to 21 and 22, and then we went into a calorie deficit and it went down to like 17 to 1,800 calories, do you think you'd still be able to have a glass of wine every once in a while? Yeah. So do you want to restore your metabolism and actually get really great results? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's do it. And she's bought in. She is 12 to 14 weeks in, and she is eating 600 more calories and maintaining weight. She's feeling better and more energy. She's crushing it in the gym. She's keeping up with her kids better. Like every single time I chat with her, she's just so much more fun to talk to. She's so much more confident and animated. And when I first talked to her, she's just like, yeah, okay, yeah. It just helps out so much if you just dive into restoring your metabolism. Okay. Now, this lovely lady, oh, love her. I know the pictures are really blurry. I'm very frustrated that they're blurry. But this lovely lady, when she was coming to me, she was conditioned to think that she should be eating anywhere from like 13 to 1,400 calories. Okay. I also encourage her to go through a reverse diet. We are now eating 500 to 800 more calories every single day than what she started with. She's lost 10 inches off of her body, and she's down 8 pounds. And we haven't even entered a fat loss phase. We're still crushing maintenance right now. And she's already seen amazing results simply because she decided to start eating the food instead of fearing it. She made the decision to stop fighting her body and start working with it. Guys, yes, we do need to be in a calorie deficit to see fat loss, but that doesn't mean that you're ready to be in a calorie deficit. And she definitely wasn't. So she took the dive, she went in there and she started eating more. Guess what? I get to see in her check-in. Dude, I went out to eat and I had fun with my friends and I'm still seeing really great results. And I PR'd my bench and I ate this cookie and I had this ice cream. And guess what? I'm going on vacation this week, but you know what? I'm not too worried about it because my metabolism is so high. I can eat all this food and not worry about me gaining weight. See how that works? Freaking amazing, right? Okay. So secret number 3 is ditch the food shame. Ditch it. There are no such thing as good foods or clean foods or dirty and bad foods. Seriously, it's just food, right? Understanding that, yes, we should be sticking to majority of the time to nutrient dense foods, single ingredient foods. But that doesn't mean if I eat a cookie, therefore I'm bad. It doesn't mean if I eat a handful of Skittles, therefore I should feel shame. When you start attaching these emotions to your food, That is when disordered eating patterns happen. That is when binge eating on the weekends happen, or binge drinking on the weekends happen. That's when you feel shame, you eat. When you want to celebrate something, you eat. When you want a security blanket or a best friend, you eat. These disordered patterns are because we tie our food to certain emotions that aren't conducive to our health, mentally or physically. Right? Obviously, yes, there are some emotional attachment to food, right? Like every once in a while, yeah, I'm going to crush sushi and it's going to feel great. And like, I'm not talking about the sushi that's like actually really healthy. I'm talking about the ones with the sauces and it's fried and like super really good and pretty much tastes like a cheeseburger and might as well just be eating a cheeseburger. Guys, I'm obsessed with sushi. That's why I'm using it as an excuse. I mean, as an example. Okay. But we have to realize that when we tie emotions to our food, that just leads into disordered eating. It leads into emotional response to our food instead of what it's supposed to be. Yeah, sometimes it does bring us to our family and our friends. Sometimes we do get to enjoy food that we really love, but it doesn't happen chronically. I know that if I have a better relationship with my food, if it's not good food or bad food, if I eat this just a little bit in moderation, fit into my nutrition plan, I have an objective view. It fits into my nutrition goals. I will not tie an emotion and then feel shame or guilt and then fall off the wagon and start eating everything in sight. And the next day you wake up defeated and sad. That's why educating yourself, like we talked about in the beginning, is so, so important. Sometimes we literally fear things that we just don't understand. I used to fear carbs. Guess what? Carbs are amazing. They're amazing for you. They do not make you fat. If anything, they help my clients get leaner and better in the gym and look better naked. I used to fear lifting weights. I used to think that it would make me bulky. No, it doesn't. Not even the slightest bit. I used to fear foods, good foods or bad foods, which, by the way, there's a name for that. It's called orthorexia. It is an eating disorder or disordered eating pattern. There's a legitimate name for it. Labeling foods good or bad and only sticking to good foods and feeling shame if you eat quote unquote bad foods, right? So that's tip number 3. So for an example for this is another client of mine. She has crushed it. She's another one of those that went through a reverse diet. She's eating more food. She lost 13 inches off of her body. She actually gained 6 pounds, which, by the way, this just is like proof that the weight doesn't always determine your success. She added 25 kilos to her total. She's eating more than ever, and she is enjoying her life. There's no restriction. There's no good foods or bad foods. She's eating with freedom. I recently just did an interview with her that I did in the Facebook group. If you guys want me to share that, just post it in the Facebook group. It's an awesome interview. And she was just talking about how it's so awesome to be able to eat the foods that she loves, be able to go out to eat on the weekends. Sometimes I creep on her and I saw her partying on one weekend. She came back to me and she didn't gain any weight and she didn't feel any guilt. She did awesome, right? That's how you incorporate food into your lifestyle. Okay. Now,